Today we're gonna walk through buying a home. What does that look like? Where do I even start? What do I have to do? How do I get to closing? All these questions, right? I'm here today to answer them. I've been there, done that. I'm also a licensed real estate agent, and my bread and butter is helping new buyers find a new home and really put all the pieces together to the puzzle they're looking to create in their next chapter. So step one is getting pre-approved, and that is through a mortgage lender or a bank. In the pre-approval process, they really just look through some of your, financial statements. And I always tell buyers, just because you're pre-approved for a certain amount does not necessarily mean you should spend that certain amount. You always want some wiggle room. You still want to go on those vacations. You still want to have, your me time or buy those shoes or whatever you want to do. So you also have to figure in closing costs. So closing costs for a home is usually averaged about 3 to 4% of the offer price. And then what your down payment is. Down payments can vary from 5% down to 20% down. Typically, we see 10 to 20% down for your initial down payment. You also have to think about, is there an HOA on the condo I'm looking at? What would be my insurance on a monthly basis? What are my taxes? So these are all the numbers you need to configure and have in the back of your mind, because you don't want to be house poor, right? Step two would be having a buyer's consultation. So really that is when, as an agent, I would walk you through the buying process. Good thing I'm doing this video so you can see it anyway. But really also getting what your criteria is. How many bedrooms do you want? How many bathrooms do you want? Is outdoor space a must? I always tell buyers too during this phase, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Do you have kids in the future? Are you looking to adopt a dog or a cat? Or, what does that look like for you? Because you need to grow into the home you're looking at, right? This isn't a year rental. This is at least 3 to 5 years, I would say, for your first home. For return on investment purposes, down the line, a 2-bedroom is always going to outperform a 1-bedroom or a studio apartment. Just little things like that are always good to, keep in mind when you're investing and making the biggest financial decision you have probably ever made in your life. Oftentimes, this is the step where buyers start to choose, okay, which agent am I going to work with? You should make sure your agent is a full-time agent. They know the area well. They either work or live in the area. Look up their background, check out their Zillow reviews. Do your due diligence on who you choose, because that is a very important part. Generally, if you're working directly with a listing agent, it's not sometimes the best situation, because the listing agent owes fiduciary responsibility to the actual seller. So they might just pawn you off to someone else in their office, and that could be someone who doesn't really know the market that well, someone who's not as experienced. I don't recommend going straight to the listing agents in a lot of cases. Step 3 is touring homes. This is my favorite step. This is really where we go together and we look at different homes throughout the area. And sometimes home looks really good on paper and online, and then you go see it in person, you're like, wow, smells like cat pee, or wow, this is right next to a fire department. I'm going to hear sirens all day. So it's really good to see it in person and, get the overall feel and the vibe of the apartment and the neighborhood. I always suggest, if you really like it, drive by it different times of the day, different times of the week, just to see what that looks like in the neighborhood. The benefits with working with a realtor during, the touring process is a licensed realtor can show you anything in the state you are looking in. A good agent will also have off-market opportunities that you can check out as well, that you're not going to find on the Zillows, on the Homes.com, on Trulia. So there's a lot of off-market opportunities out there right now that a good agent will also be able to show you. There are some hidden gems out there. And it's funny, a lot of people are like, oh God, I haven't found the one. I feel bad. I've been taking this agent out for over a year. Look, I've had buyers that have been, looking for 2 years, and it's okay. There's no timeline. The timeline is when you are ready and you find the one that you love. Step 4 is submitting an offer. This is when your agent should really talk to the listing agent before any offers made and just kind of pick around and see what the seller's needs and wants are. Is it a timing issue? Do they want to do a leaseback situation where they rent out the unit they currently live in after they close? What is the seller's main interest? I would call them and just say, hey, look, I have a great buyer. They're very interested, and just kind of get that seller's criteria so we can include the best offer moving forward. Closing dates usually, just for your knowledge, they usually are 45 to 60 days from offer to closing. Figure about 2 months on average. And in terms of down payment, this is a good time to figure out, okay, you've been talking to some lenders, there's different opportunities. Typically we see in Hudson County, we see 10 to 20% down. The higher the percent down payment, the more skin in the game you have, right? And the more serious you look like to a seller. Discuss these options with lenders as well and see what programs are out there and what is a good fit for you. Is that a 7-year ARM? Is that a 30-year fixed mortgage? What does that look like? Step 5 is negotiation. The negotiation can include everything that we put in the offer. So if that's, an inspection contingency, they need a few more weeks past what we originally put in the offer. Or, we came in under, they've countered us at a certain amount. So there could be some back and forth between the seller as well as you. And I would go back and forth with the listing agent. And then hopefully we land on a good price that everyone feels comfortable with. This is where a deal could fall apart easily. If you don't have, both parties agreeing on an outcome, the deal could totally fall apart. As a buyer, sometimes if you have a seller that's not willing to meet halfway, you can walk away. It's okay. We're on to step 6. When your offer is accepted, woohoo, and attorney review begins. A good buyer agent should have a few different attorneys they work with on a regular basis that they could recommend. As a buyer, you really want to use a local agent to the area you're looking at and someone that knows, the area, the buildings. It's very important to have an attorney that is real estate specific and to that area. During attorney review, this is a perfect time for you as a buyer to shop around different mortgage lenders, right? So you have to put your negotiation hat on and you have to work with different people, see what different rates are out there, and pin them against each other. Make them compete for your money. The rate is a very important part. What percent you get, like, hey, cross-country mortgage, Loan Depot's giving me X. What can you do? Can you beat that? You have to do some due diligence here, put your negotiation hat on and get the best rate for you. And just so you know, in the state of New Jersey, attorney review usually lasts 3 to 10 days. And very important fact, which I did not know when I first bought my apartment, but in New Jersey, any other offer during attorney review can come in and bounce you out. So just because your offer has been accepted and your attorney review has begun does not mean that you're not safe just yet. You could get potentially bounced out, which is very Sopranos of New Jersey, but it does happen sometimes. Step 7 is you are officially under contract, attorney review has concluded, and now you are officially on the hook. No, the biggest and most important part of this is that usually 50% of your down payment is due 10 days within attorney review being concluded. That means that if you were putting 20% down, you would probably owe about 10% in earnest money. So this money gets held in either the title company's escrow account or the seller's attorney's escrow account until closing. So when I say your money will get held in an escrow account, it's a secure account with the title company or the seller's attorney that your money is held safely until closing, which is usually another month or so from this period on. So just know that you will need liquid money within that time period. This is also when your buyer agent and you would schedule a home inspection. You don't schedule a home inspection until after attorney review is concluded. That's step 7, but we'll get to that. This is also the time when you should officially rate lock. You should have picked your lender by now, negotiated whatever you needed to negotiate with them, and this is when you officially rate lock. Just because you're under contract does not mean that you are, home free just yet. We still have to have the inspection. You still have to get, your mortgage commitment. There's a lot that could happen. Please, please, please do not make any large purchases or please try to keep your job until you close. I've had buyers, get a new job and they couldn't get a mortgage commitment because they didn't have longevity at that job. They bought, a really expensive item and that kind of messed up their whole credit and, the mortgage commitment couldn't be had. So please stay steady. Do not make any large purchases and, we'll get you to closing. Step 8 is home inspection. So again, your buyer's agent should have a few different great home inspectors they recommend, okay, that are local to your area, are very trusted, they're timely. So what happens for home inspection is your buyer agent will schedule an inspection. You as buyers will come along to that, as well as the home inspector. And the home inspector goes through the entire property. They check everything from windows to HVAC system to the dishwasher, to, all appliances, water pressure. They check everything. If it's a home, they'll do a drone to check out the roof. This is also if you have a large property on a piece of land, you should also have a tank sweep done to make sure there's no hidden oil tanks underground that we can't see. There's a lot that goes in. You could have a radon test done as well. They test for any pest control, termite damage, or wood-bearing insects. They'll look for that as well. And this is also a good time to ask the inspector, hey, where's my water valve shut off? Or how do I change the HVAC filter? Because a home doesn't come with user instructions. I wish they did, but they don't. This is a good time to ask a home inspector all these little questions you might have about the home. Usually after the home inspection, it takes about a few days to get back, but the home inspector will give us a big packet of pictures of anything that he or she has seen. So what if you find a red flag in your inspection, okay? What if it's the roof caving in or the foundation's crumbling? What as a buyer can you do? How are you covered? So the reason we have attorneys is that they cover you. So if there's a major red flag that the seller's not willing to either give you a credit for or amend by the time you close, then you as a buyer can opt out of the deal and you would get your deposit back. So you have that safety net of opting out if there's a major red flag. This is why I do not like waiving any home inspection, because you never know what you're gonna find, and this is a very important step. Step 9, you get committed for your mortgage. So this is a very important step, and it means we're pretty much getting to the finish line. Don't be alarmed as a buyer when you get your closing disclosure. It's going to be itemized and you're going to be a little bit overwhelmed. Again, a good rule of thumb is to assume 3 to 4% of your offer price for closing costs. And this is a good step because that means you're almost free and clear of getting to closing. Like I said before, no big purchases. Don't buy a new car. Don't buy an expensive vacuum. Don't buy anything. Just get groceries, okay? Step 10 is the final walkthrough. So I like to do final walkthroughs. Your buyer agent will set this up. I like to do them the morning we close, because God forbid there was a storm and the windows blew in or the ceiling caved in or whatever it could be. I like to make sure that it looks just like we left it during inspection, or any inspection items that we negotiated them to fix have been fixed. So this is a good time to make sure everything's up and running, it looks good, and we're good to go. If there's something you see during the final walkthrough that shouldn't be there or needed to be fixed, we can actually still have time. We go to the closing table. Your buyer agent should bring it up to your attorney and say, hey, look, this window was cracked. We want a credit of X amount at the closing table. The last step is closing day. So this is very exciting. You as buyers would have agreed upon location, whether that's your agent's office or your attorney's office, to have the actual physical closing. You should block off about an hour of time for this. It usually takes about an hour. You have to sign your life away, so get your wrists ready. And really, this is, the title company will walk you through all the documentation from the lender as well. You have to bring photo ID, and you should also bring a personal checkbook just in case there's some sort of overage that it could be small, but sometimes that happens where you're like, oh, you know what, you owe $100 or something like that. So you could bring your personal checkbook as well. If you're closing on a Friday, I highly suggest not to do a wire transfer, because sometimes your wire, even though it leaves your bank, it doesn't reach the seller's bank until Monday. Legally, we cannot hand off the keys until that wire transfer is complete. If you're closing later in the week, a certified check is a better way to go than a wire transfer. And now you are officially a homeowner and you are officially on the board of Monopoly. I hope this video has really helped you in terms of, oh my God, where do I start as a buyer, and kind of walked you through the process. Having a buyer's agent is always recommended. They will be your biggest advocate, and obviously every deal is a little bit different, but they should have the education and the wherewithal to navigate you through the waters and get you to closing. And if you ever find yourself in New Jersey and you need a buyer's agent, you know who to call. I am Kate Mazzacano with Sirhan.